This is the Your Career Story podcast, and you're listening to episode 80, the surprising thing I learned on my 8-week sabbatical. Welcome to Your Career Story podcast, a show that's designed for rockstar professionals looking for that extra booster shot of confidence in their careers. Whether you're trying to get clarity on a job transition, want some work-life balance inspiration, or need a strategy to snag that promotion or raise, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Jena, ex-Wall Streeter turned startup junkie who now coaches hundreds of clients, empowering them to take back control of the job search and land their dream job. So sit back, grab a glass of wine, and prepare yourself for your weekly boost of career confidence. Hello there, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Your Career Story podcast. Today, we're going to be talking all about sabbaticals. So this is sabbatical episode part 2. If you want to listen to me talk a little bit about why I decided to take a sabbatical, go back and listen to episode 72. I actually think you can hear in my voice how exhausted I was and how burnt out I felt. So we're going to do part 2 of that today. We're going to share a little bit about how my reality and my expectations did not match up with my sabbatical, what I thought it was going to look like and what it ended up actually looking like. I'm going to share with you the one thing that I was surprised to learn and the 3 steps that you can take to go on your own sabbatical. So let me paint a little bit of picture for you. So I'm super excited. If you go back and listen to 72, you can hear a little bit about why I decided I was burnt out. It was 2020. I mean, need I say anything more, right? But I was so excited to take the sabbatical. And we come back from our honeymoon, we do the wedding thing. I'm like getting off of email. It feels glorious. And I have this whole list of things that I'm going to do, right? I'm going to learn how to, bake sourdough bread. I'm going to take a ceramics class. I'm going to watch every masterclass video there is. I'm going to learn. I'm also going to come to some revelation about my life and about my career. And I'm just going to have all these things that happen. And I get through the month of August, and honestly, y'all, all I did was sleep a lot. I moved. We got married. I moved, which is a lot of stuff. To be clear, that's a lot of things to have happen in a short time frame, right? But I really thought that I was going to be Miss Productive Woman with all this time off. I went to bed at 10 p.m. every night, and I woke up at about 7 or 8. That's a lot of time to sleep. Clearly, I needed it. Clearly, I was exhausted and my body was catching up on all the sleep that I didn't get. And I got to the end of August and I looked back and I was like, oh crap, what? I have nothing to show for this month. I really didn't. I watched television. I needle pointed. I sat by the pool a lot. I did read some, which felt productive. I read some, creative books. I read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert in a day. I read her other book, a fiction book, City of Girls. Super fun. I highly recommend it. It's a great, easy read, super thick book. Nothing really totally happens in the book, but it's just beautiful writing and she's just awesome. So I did some things that felt quote unquote productive and fun. But if I really looked back on August, I didn't do a whole lot. And so I made it my mission in September. I was going to get some work done. I was going to be productive in my own creative space, but not work. And I just felt myself really easily slipping back into the same hustle mentality. Beginning of September, I felt like I was back in anxiety land because I was trying to overcompensate and get something and squeeze something out of my sabbatical. I wanted to tell people on this podcast episode, this is my big revelation I got. And here's what I learned and all these fabulous things, right? I put this expectation on myself to really get something out of it, which is kind of not the point of a sabbatical. The point of a sabbatical is to rest, to recharge, and to get those creative juices flowing again and to get some clarity. And I will say, I was so focused on getting clarity on a couple of different things in my business and in my life that I feel like I pushed it too much. I journaled a lot and there got to be this point where I was like, actually, I think I've journaled myself out and now I'm just in my head, introspective down the rabbit hole. Anyone ever been there before where you're just thinking and actually you're not going to figure anything out by all that thinking? And so for me, I got to this point about early September after a week of being crazy, essentially. a week of being back in the hustle mode, just in a different, just packaged differently. And I said, okay, this cannot be you can't focus on this. You cannot focus on this. And so I really let myself relax into the last couple of weeks before I went back. And I, didn't ever make any sourdough bread. I tried rosemary bread, but let me tell you, my yeast didn't rise and I never tried it again because I was like, this is too much work. I didn't write my book. I thought I was going to start writing my book and get really focused on it. And, everyone who comes back from a sabbatical has written a book. Like, that was not me. I read books, but I didn't write anything. I started working on the career journal. So that was probably the most productive thing that I did. The career journal that's going to be coming out in 2021. I'm super excited for you guys to see it. It's really going to help you understand, like, what am I doing with my life? And on a weekly basis, let me reflect on what I've done this past week and how that's going to help me in my future career for my future life, and thinking through, like, do I like what I'm doing? So I did work on that, but I didn't have some crazy revelation, like I should shut down my business, or I should pivot in my business, or I should, just go full steam ahead. I really feel like I'm not going to understand the full fruit of that time. That was the biggest thing I learned. The surprising thing was, I learned that when you're in it, when you're in that sabbatical, when you're in that period of rest, you can't really see the fruit of it. And I was trying so hard to see the fruit of it. And now reflecting back, I can see, like, I got some quality time with my husband, my new husband, which was so fun, right? We were starting to build a house. We were learning our own rhythms. I got to see one of my best friends and her new baby and her toddler, who is adorable. Like, those were some really rich moments. I got to, go to coffee with people or go to an outside coffee shop. I got to watch some movies that I wanted to watch. And you know what? No shame in that. I really, now also being a month into work, I'm starting to see some of the things that I was really trying hard to get clarity on start to just naturally fall into place as I'm starting to work again, because I'm operating now from a place of rest, where before I was 100% operating my business in a place of fear, anxiety, and hustle. My identity, I've talked about this a lot, and I know that a lot of career women, if you're listening to this, you probably relate to this. Maybe you've been single for a long time, and the only thing that you feel like you have because your personal life isn't bumping is your career. And so you put all of your effort and all of your attention and all of your focus into your career. So when it feels like that's not working, we feel like we're losing a sense of ourselves. Anybody relate to that? I know for me, it's very easy for me to slip into what I do equals who I am. And, when you're on a sabbatical and you're resting, like, you're not doing anything. And so I think that's where my beginning of September hustle brain went into place, because I started to really feel those emotions of, oh my gosh, like, if I am what I do and I'm not doing anything right now, like, who am I? Right? That question, it was so existential and so, kind of ridiculous in some ways, but also very real in other ways. And so when we are these ambitious career women, we have a really hard time, perhaps in the midst of the rest, or we have a hard time resting in the first place, but in the midst of the rest, really understanding what we're getting from this rest. And I can say now that looking back at that and understanding what my year had looked like prior to that, and just some pivots that I was wanting to make in my business, I can see very clearly where the Lord is driving me and where I'm going that I don't think I saw in the midst of the sabbatical, or definitely not before. I was 100% operating out of fear and anxiety and not operating from a place of rest and abundance. And I can say now that, though it's always going to be probably a struggle, I can really operate from that rest and make some strategic decisions for the business as a whole, and really evaluating myself as the CEO of my career and not just the career coach, which is fine to be just the career coach, but to level up in that thinking of, how do I approach my business more as the CEO and less as just a coach. And so for you in your own career, when you take any time away or you take any rest, and we're going to walk through some steps that you can take to take your own sabbatical if you're a 9-to-5er, if you do take that rest, I think it's really important to not beat yourself up if you don't feel like you've gotten any clarity in the moment, I think most clarity, most of the fruit of that time of rest comes after the fact. Because when we operate and work from rest versus working from burnout and fumes, which again, if you go back to episode 72, you're going to hear a burnt out lady. We're going to make better choices. We're going to make better decisions for our careers and for our families and for our lives. So that's what I learned, is that I didn't learn as much as I thought I was going to learn in that time frame. But now looking back, I can see how much I'm about to see the fruits of that. Are you absolutely frustrated with your job search? You apply online and hear nothing back. Or worse, you get a "thank you very much for applying, but we decided to go another way." What? Did anyone even look at your resume? You have no idea what you did wrong, and you want to know exactly how to hack the system. Well, friend, I've got you covered. Wouldn't it be great to have hiring managers run after you? Wouldn't it be great if your job search was a heck of a lot easier? And wouldn't it be absolutely spectacular if you could get inside a hiring manager's head and figure out exactly what they wanted from you? Well, that's why I created my free training, How to Land Your Dream Job Without Losing Your Resume to the Online Abyss. If you're looking to understand what the heck recruiters want and how to be seen as the only person for the job, you need to check out this training. Head on over to www.jenaviviano.com/masterclass to sign up. This training is compiled from years of experience working with mid to senior level corporate women. In this free masterclass, I'll walk you through where you're getting stuck and why you aren't getting traction, the behind the scenes reasons an employer isn't picking up your resume, how to sell yourself in a non-sleazy way so that hiring managers come running after you. Plus, for those of you that want to hop on live, I have an extra special bonus for you. How to Land Your Dream Job will show you what you are doing wrong and exactly what you need to change so that hiring managers and recruiters fight over you, instead of you blindly applying online and hoping something sticks to the wall. Again, head on over to www.jenaviviano.com/masterclass to sign up for this free training. I can't wait to see you in there. So if you're thinking, Jena, that sounds really amazing. You got to sleep a lot. You got to run. You got to sit by the pool. You got to really rest and journal and spend time with your family. I want to do that too. How could I do that if I'm not an entrepreneur? So one, if you are an entrepreneur, you need to be taking sabbaticals. I think it's an important rhythm. I'm going to be doing that for the rest of my career. I don't know if I'll have to take a 2-month sabbatical, but I will say at least a month of every year I want to be taking time off. And two, the other thing that I thought was so interesting, and this is just an aside again for my entrepreneurial friends that are listening to this, I was shocked. I looked at my numbers and I was shocked that we are on pace, even with 2020 happening and me taking 2 months off, we're about to match the exact same revenue or exceed it as last year. And last year was a booming year. Felt like a booming year. And I thought this year was like, there's nothing happening in the world. I've felt so much anxiety. But if I actually looked at the numbers, math doesn't lie. And taking 2 months off, we're still on pace to hit the same numbers as last year or exceed them, which is super, super exciting. So an encouragement for my entrepreneurs who feel like they can't do that, plan for it, make it happen. It's going to make a world of difference for your business and actually keep your business healthier longer. So for those of you that are 9-to-5s, here's some steps that I want you to take when thinking about your sabbatical. So you've decided, Jena, you know what? I want to try and take a sabbatical, but I'm really nervous because I don't know if my boss is going to go for it. I don't know what I'm going to do during it. Like, how do I make this happen in my own life? So here's the first step that you need to take. You need to decide your why. What is your why? Why are you taking a sabbatical? Is it that you're burnt out? Is it that you're trying to, solve a problem at work at a new angle? Is it that you're trying to decide, do I want to be in this job anymore? Right? What is your why? Are you trying to get clarity? Are you trying to be creative? Are you trying to just rest? Figure out what it is first. That's really important because if we're just like, I want to take a long vacation, that's not really the purpose of a sabbatical. A sabbatical is really for intentional rest to help you understand your work life better and to show up better in your work life. So that's the first step, decide your why. The second step is to talk to your boss. Now, this may give you're already probably sweating. You're already thinking, oh my goodness, I don't think I could do this. My boss is totally not going to go for it. But this was a stat that I found really interesting. SHRM, which is the Society for HR Management, stated that 23% of companies actually offer sabbaticals to their teams. One of the companies that was on there that I thought was shocking, there was consulting firms and bigger organizations, but the Cheesecake Factory. The Cheesecake Factory offers sabbaticals for their teams. So while your company may not have a sabbatical policy in place, I would check that first. Let's say that they don't because, only 23% do. So let's say that, almost 70+% don't. So you may be the person that starts that policy at your company. We actually did a blog post with Jen Smith. She is one of our career coaches in our Recruit the Employer program. Where we help women figure out their purpose, find their dream job, and land that dream job and negotiate thousands more. She's one of our coaches in there. And she actually wrote a whole blog post, which we'll link to in the show notes, about how she, asked her management, the company that she was at prior to launching her business full time, but the company that she was at, she asked them and she came with a script and she shares all about how she took 100 days off of her 9-to-5 job and how she was able to potentially start this policy at the company that she was working at. So we'll make sure that we link to that. But you could be that catalyst. You could be the reason that other people get rest. And I think that is an awesome, awesome thing. So don't be fearful. The worst that they can say is no. They're not going to fire you for it if you do it well. No one's going to say like, oh my gosh, get out of here. Like, I can't believe you. Because the reality is, especially in 2020, we're all burnt out. We're exhausted. Everybody understands that sentiment. And so what I don't want you to do though, when you go to your boss and you go to your manager and you set that time up on their calendar, say, hey, I just want to talk to you about something. You don't want to go and say, I'm just burnt out. I'm exhausted. I'm not going to make it. Because though that may be true for you personally, that is not going to convince your boss to let you take the time off. So I'm all for that. I get that. I totally understand that. What you need to come to the table with is a plan, an action plan of what you're going to do, how long you're going to take off, how it's going to benefit them, and who's going to be doing your role while you're gone, basically, right? This can feel really overwhelming. So what I want you to break it down super simple. One, I want you to do some research on sabbaticals. I found that stat, the 23% of companies actually offer sabbaticals. There are tons of stats out there. Go Google them. Come to the table with some data points for your boss. Bosses love data points. Come with a case and state, here's some benefits of a sabbatical. Here's why I want to take a sabbatical, and share the why from the perspective of how it's going to be beneficial to the organization. So you can share stats about creativity and how it'll increase your creativity. You can share stats about how it's going to make you more productive when you come back. You can share stats about the clarity that you're going to get on maybe a project you're working on. You can share what your intention is and give some facts and some figures. There's a great TED Talk also about sabbaticals that I highly recommend. Just sharing that information and presenting your case as to how you're going to offload maybe some of that work and how you can maybe prepare in advance so it's the least amount of effort for everybody else. And you can share the benefits that they'll be able to receive. Now, the thing that you have to keep in mind is, one, they may not pay you for that time. And you have to be prepared for them to give you, yeah, sure, take the sabbatical, but it's going to be unpaid. So I would make sure that your finances are in order for you to move forward with that. The best scenario would be that they would pay you to take that time off. And some companies will do that. So don't be fearful of asking. There's nothing wrong with asking. The worst that they can say is no, or not right now. It might be hard for some companies right now in COVID to actually follow through with that. But you could say, great, totally understand that. Would it be okay if I follow up in 6 months about this? Because it shows that you're serious. It shows that you see the value of it. And it's not just a fleeting, hey, I'm really burnt out now, I need a break, right? Now, if you can't do it, and then the third step to that would be mark it off on your calendar. So first step, decide your why. 2, talk to your boss, do your research, make a case. The third step would be to mark it off on your calendar. Set the time aside. So important to communicate early and often what you're doing, when you're doing it, and when you're coming back. I was surprised, honestly, at how many people on LinkedIn, I get a lot of messages. Maybe you are listening to this and you were one of those people that knew that I was on a sabbatical. But I think it's because I was very clear on one, if you listen to my podcast, we had a whole episode, again, 72 about it. And I was on LinkedIn, and on LinkedIn, it stated that I was on sabbatical. On my Instagram, it stated that I was on sabbatical. And so people were just aware that I was taking some time away. And I got so many messages of, I'm so jealous that you're taking time off. I need to do this for myself. So if you were that person that was saying like, I need to do this for myself, I think that I'll come back renewed, restored, and a better employee, you really need to seriously consider taking that sabbatical, talking to your boss, and marking it off on your calendar. Now, let's say they say, hey, we just can't swing it right now. Absolutely not. I appreciate you asking, but no. Here's some things that you can do to create your own mini sabbaticals throughout your workday and throughout your month. So the first thing is what I call the Monday method. You guys have probably heard me talk about it if you've been following me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. The Monday method is making Mondays amazing. That's the goal, right? We have so many people that like are TGIF, thank goodness it's Friday, or like can't wait for the happy hours on Thursday because it means the work week's over, or the virtual happy hours now, I guess. But if you can't take a sabbatical, I really recommend putting some time aside every single Monday to do something fun. It could be 15 minutes one week. It could be 30 minutes another week. It could be 2 hours, depending on your work schedule. Setting aside that time just for you. I'm actually recording this on a Monday, and I am going to get my nails done. I'm going to get my nails done today because I want to make Monday really fun, and I don't want to have the Sunday scaries and dread coming to Monday. So that's the first thing that I would recommend. And the second, and if you do it, I would love if you would take a picture of what you're doing on a Monday, tag the Monday method, and tag me in it. And that would be awesome because I would love to see what you're doing and what you're up to. So many cool ideas of people that have done it. And then the other thing that I would recommend trying is that one day a month, you could become totally unreachable. So meaning you take the time off, you delete your email from your phone, you delete your Slack from your phone, you don't get tempted by your computer, and you actually show up in your life and do things that you want to do that day. Take that mental health day and create like a mini sabbatical in your year. I recommend doing that once a month. And a lot of companies have personal days baked into your vacation days, or you could take a sick day and, lie about it. I prefer you not. I prefer you be truthful and honest that you're taking a personal day. But I think it's really, really important to try to be totally unreachable once a month. And again, you got to plan for it. Same with the Monday method. You have to plan for it. Otherwise, it will never happen. I know this for myself. I worked on Wall Street. I worked in a fast growing startup. If you don't set aside the time will escape you. And you will realize you've come to the end of your year and you've taken none of your vacation days. So it's really, really important to take those mini breaks because that's going to keep you motivated. It's going to keep you from getting burnt out as fast, and it's going to keep you focused. So I really, really hope that you would consider taking a sabbatical, friends, or think about just how you can generate more rest in your life and how you can work from rest instead of working from the hustle. Learn from me that even if you do take a sabbatical, it's okay if you don't learn anything in the moment. A lot of the fruit will come later. So if you've enjoyed this episode, and if you're thinking about taking a sabbatical, I would recommend listening to episode 72, where we talked more about that. The other thing that I would recommend doing is reading that blog post, and then message me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear what your experience is like, if you're excited about it, what you're going to do to maybe make those mini changes in your work week. The Monday method, I love seeing those videos and those tags on Instagram and on LinkedIn. So friends, I will see you next week on the Your Career Story podcast. It's been great being with you. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for listening to Your Career Story podcast. I would love to get to meet you. And there are a couple of ways that we can connect in between episodes. First and foremost, I love my LinkedIn. Second is via Instagram. And third is over on my website. I actually have a special spot just for you full of fun, free resources. So all you have to do is go to www.jenaviviano.com/resources. Super simple, for a bunch of freebies that will help you boost your career. Hope to see you next week.